The devil isn't a force, a concept, or an abstract design. He is a living being. He is given personal names and titles. Personal acts and attributes are ascribed to him. We see this mentioned in the Bible. He grabbed the dragon, that old snake, the very devil, Satan himself, chained him up for 1,000 years, dumped him into the abyss, slammed it shut, and sealed it tight. Revelation chapter 20, verse 2. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground, mighty though you were against the nations of the world. For you said to yourself, I will ascend to heaven and rule the angels. I will take the highest throne. I will preside on the Mount of Assembly, far away in the north. I will climb to the highest heavens and be like the Most High. But instead, you will be brought down to the pit of hell, down to its lowest depths. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12 through 15. In Matthew 4, verses 1 through 11, we see how Jesus dealt with the devil as a person and waged war against him as against a person. Next, Jesus was taken into the wild by the Spirit for the test. The devil was ready to give it. Jesus prepared for the test by fasting 40 days and 40 nights. That left him, of course, in a state of extreme hunger, which the devil took advantage of in the first test. Since you are God's son, speak the word that will turn these stones into loaves of bread. Jesus answered by quoting Deuteronomy. It takes more than bread to stay alive. It takes a steady stream of words from God's mouth. For the second test, the devil took him to the holy city. He sat him on top of the temple and said, Since you are God's son, jump. The devil goaded him by quoting Psalm 91. He has placed you in the care of angels. They will catch you so that you won't so much as stub your toe on a stone. Jesus countered with another citation from Deuteronomy. Don't you dare test the Lord your God. For the third test, the devil took him to the peak of a huge mountain. He gestured expansively, pointing out all the earth's kingdoms, how glorious they all were. Then he said, They're yours, lock, stock, and barrel. Just go down on your knees and worship me, and they're yours. Jesus' refusal was curt. Beat it, Satan. He backed his rebuke with a third quotation from Deuteronomy. Worship the Lord your God, and only him. Serve him with absolute single-heartedness. The test was over. The devil left, and in his place, angels. Angels came and took care of Jesus' needs. Paul, in his epistles, also described the believer's battle with Satan as with a real person. Last of all, I want to remind you that your strength must come from the Lord's mighty power within you. Put on all of God's armor so that you will be able to stand safe against all strategies and tricks of Satan. For we are not fighting against people made of flesh and blood, but against persons without bodies. The evil rulers of the unseen world, those mighty satanic beings and great evil princes of darkness who rule this world, and against huge numbers of wicked spirits in the spirit world. So use every piece of God's armor to resist the enemy whenever he attacks. And when it is all over, you will be standing up. But to do this, you will need the strong belt of truth and the breastplate of God's approval. Wear shoes that are able to speed you on as you preach the good news of peace with God. In every battle, you will need faith as your shield to stop the fiery arrows aimed at you by Satan. And you will need the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. Pray all the time. Ask God for anything in line with the Holy Spirit's wishes. Plead with Him, reminding Him of your needs, and keep praying earnestly for all Christians everywhere. Ephesians chapter 6, verses 10 through 18. For still our ancient foe doth seek to work us woe. His craft and power are great, and, armed with cruel hate, on earth is not his equal. Martin Luther. A mighty fortress is our God. I feel very strongly that the devil is making his last attempt to capture the planet. Satan, the enemy. It is essential that we know who our adversary is. The Bible makes it crystal clear in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8, who our adversary is. Be careful. Watch out for attacks from Satan, your great enemy. He prowls around like a hungry, roaring lion, looking for some victim to tear apart. 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8. The devil is your adversary. This reality is difficult to accept for many people. The point is that the devil will do all he can to prevent you from seeing him as your adversary, because he knows that if you do, the war is all but won. Some people are even deceived into believing that God is the cause of their problems and misfortunes. If you are born again, God is your Father, and His thoughts for you are thoughts of good, never of evil. Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. I know what I'm doing. I have it all planned out. Plans to take care of you, not abandon you. Plans to give you the future you hope for. More than 200 times in the Bible, Satan is specifically mentioned. In Genesis 3, Satan makes his incursion into human affairs. In Job 1, he is a tyrant who oppresses the righteous. In Matthew 4, Satan tempts Jesus with audacity. In Revelation 20, he is identified as being imprisoned. In Ezekiel, we have the complete account of the devil's fall, works, and destiny. Ezekiel's description can only be attributed to a super being. The prophet Isaiah describes the devil's actual fall from his place of honor and glory as one of the archangels. John the Apostle goes into further detail about Satan's fall in Revelation 12. Then there was war in heaven. Michael and the angels under his command fought the dragon and his hosts of fallen angels. And the dragon lost the battle and was forced from heaven. This great dragon, the ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, the one deceiving the whole world, was thrown down onto the earth with all his army. Then I heard a loud voice shouting across the heavens, "It has happened at last! God's salvation and the power and the rule and the authority of His Christ are finally here. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down from heaven onto earth. He accused them day and night before our God." Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 through 10. Rejoice, O heavens, you citizens of heaven, rejoice, be glad. But woe to people of the world, for the devil has come down to you in great anger, knowing that he has little time. Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Satan aspired to be equal to God, not being happy with being a lovely, intelligent creature of God's creation and the highest order of angels. This conflict has lasted for millennia and will not be fully resolved until Satan is thrown into the lake of fire for all eternity. Satan is still a dignitary. When the archangel Michael, an angel with enormous strength and rank in heaven, was arguing over Moses' body, we read in the book of Jude chapter 1 verse 9 that he did not presume to pronounce a reviling judgment upon him, Satan. Even in his fallen state, the devil is one of God's most wise and perceptive characters. The devil is a tempter. According to the New Testament, the devil has the power to offer kingship, rulership, and even dictatorship to those who will bow down to him and obey him. In Luke chapter 4 verses 3 through 8, Satan offered Jesus rulership over all nations and their wealth if he would only bow down to him. Luke chapter 4 verses 3 through 8. The devil said to him, "If you are the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread." Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone." The devil led him up to a high place and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And he said to him, "I will give you all their authority and splendor. It has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. If you worship me, it will all be yours." Jesus answered, "It is written, worship the Lord your God and serve Him only." Something truly amazing to me is that when Jesus said that all the nations were His and that He would give the authority and influence of these nations to whomever He wished, He did not consider the devil a liar. Only when we know such truths will we be able to comprehend and cope with world events in these last days. This Bible passage clearly shows that the devil has the ability to rule over human society in certain areas. Satan was beautiful. He was the most beautiful creature of all. His appearance was covered with gold and the most costly of stones. Ezekiel wrote that he was perfect in beauty. Satan's power. The names, powers, and sphere of power of the devil are all well defined. In Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 14, he is referred to as the anointed guardian angel. You had access to the holy mountain of God. You walked among the stones of fire. In the tabernacle and temple in Jerusalem during the Old Testament, the cherubim guarded the holiest place of worship, the mercy seat of covering the holy Ark of the Covenant, which was the emblem of Israel's holiest devotion to Jehovah, featured two golden-winged cherubim. The anointed cherub was associated with God's holiness. From an angel to a devil. Satan fell first because of his pride. We see this in Ezekiel chapter 28 verse 17. His spiritual service to Jehovah was supplanted by his greed. He was said to have a multitude of iniquities that caused him to be violent. Perhaps this is a reference to his seeking after all things with no regard for whom he hurts in the quest. Since then, these two elements, pride and greed, have been powerful instruments to enticing man to sin. How many of us sin because we are enamored with our possessions and our physical beauty? How quickly can these produce iniquity in sinful flesh like ours, if they can produce iniquity in the cherub that covereth? One of the great needs of our time is a defense against that evil which we call the devil. We all are under an obscure domination. It is by Satan, the prince of this world, the number one enemy. The location of hell. Many other hypotheses on the precise location of hell have been proposed. There is a common belief that hell can be found in the very center of the earth. In the Old Testament, the word that is translated as hell is Sheol. In the New Testament, the word that is translated as hell is either Hades, which means unseen, or Gehenna, which means the valley of Hinnom. The Hebrew word Sheol can be translated as pit or grave. Sheol and Hades are two names of the same place, which is where the dead go before they are judged. Gehenna refers to an eternal state of punishment for the wicked dead. Psalm chapter 9 verse 17, Amplified Bible. The wicked will turn to Sheol, the netherworld, the place of the dead, even all the nations who forget God. Revelation chapter 1 verse 18. And the ever-living one, living in and beyond all time and space. I died, but see, I am alive forevermore, and I have the keys of absolute control and victory over death and of Hades, the realm of the dead. The idea that hell is located below us, possibly in the center of the earth, originates from biblical passages such as Luke chapter 10 verse 15, which states, And thou, Capernaum, which art exalted to heaven, shalt be thrust down to hell. It is important to point out, however, that this text is concerned with the geographic location of hell. It is more likely that the down that is referred to in connection with Capernaum is a reference to the city's condemnation than to the literal direction. Another hypothesis is that the earth itself will be the lake of fire expressed in Revelation chapter 20 verses 10 through 15. The theory goes that when the earth is destroyed by fire, God will use that flaming sphere as the everlasting place of torment for the ungodly. Again, this is mere speculation. 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 10, Amplified Bible. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will vanish with a mighty and thunderous roar, and the material elements will be destroyed with intense heat, and the earth and the works that are on it will be burned up. Where can one find hell? Even though certain verses describe hell or the region of judgment as being downward or below the earth, hell is a location that exists beyond our physical universe where the souls of mankind continue to live after death. This place is comparable to heaven. Hell is an eternal place of unending agony for those who do not believe in God. Those who are incarcerated in hell appear to be able to view at least some portions of heaven and remember what transpired on earth. From the New Testament, we know that when a believer dies, his body goes to the grave, but his soul goes to be with Christ in heaven. They will be cast into the lake of fire, a place of eternal punishment. Revelation 20 speaks in detail concerning the final state of Satan and unbelievers. Verse 7 remarks that at the end of the 1,000-year millennial kingdom, Satan will be released for one last battle along with the misled nations of the world. After he is defeated, the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Revelation 20 verse 10. And the devil who had deceived them was hurled into the lake of fire and burning brimstone, sulfur, where the beast, Antichrist, and false prophet are also, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Then all unbelievers will be judged before the great white throne. Revelation 20 verse 15 states, "And if anyone's name was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire." In the next chapter, Revelation 21 verse 8 adds, "Hell exists in a realm beyond our present realm. Unbelievers experience ongoing torment and are unable to escape their judgment." At the end of time, Satan and unbelievers will experience the second death, in which they will be in the lake of fire. This dreadful situation is one no person would desire. This is why God has offered salvation through Jesus to anyone who will believe, and patiently offers this salvation still today. Yes, hell exists, according to the Bible. The reality of hell is described in the Bible using the same terminology that describes the reality of heaven. In point of fact, Jesus spent a greater amount of time admonishing people about the perils of hell than he did reassuring them about the possibility of heaven. In short, the Bible only tells us what it's like to be in hell. The Bible does make it clear, however, that hell is real, eternal, and must be avoided at all costs. The prince of the power of the air. In Ephesians 2 verse 2, the devil is designated as the prince of the power of the air. Prince speaks of the exalted position of his rulership. Air speaks of the sphere of his rulership, which probably is the area above and around the earth. Because Satan is a spirit, he can move through space with incredible speed, as can other spirits also. A deceiver, as the angel of light. In 2 Corinthians 11 verse 14, the devil is called an angel of light. This has to do with his deception of mankind. For example, he appeared to Eve in the Garden of Eden as a very kind and wonderful creature. It wasn't until after Eve had sinned and fallen from God's grace that she discovered, "The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat." Genesis 3 verse 13. The prince of this world, in John 12 verse 31, chapter 14 verse 30, and chapter 16 verse 11. Satan is described as the prince of this world. This means the unregenerated world. It means the world which has fallen from grace, the world that follows him to perdition. The prince of darkness, in Ephesians 6 verse 12, Satan is described as the prince of darkness. This reveals his dark nature, his complete disregard for light and holiness. All of his works are dark, for he is indeed the prince of all darkness. The god of this world, in 2 Corinthians 4 verse 4, he is called the god of this world. This means that men and women worship him. In heathen countries, the people worship a spirit which they do not know. We know that it is Satan, for he is the god of pagan people. They have many strange manifestations in their worship of idols, but ultimately it is the devil they serve. It is significant that the designation of prince is a name in the Bible given to deity, as to Jehovah in Daniel 8 verse 11. Prince is a designation given to Christ in Isaiah 9 verse 6, Acts 3 verse 15, and Revelation 1 verse 5. It is a name given to the chief priests of the temple in Isaiah 43 verse 28. Prince is a name given to noblemen and kings in Isaiah 10 verse 8 and Numbers 17 verse 6. This reveals the strength, power, and position the devil possesses through having been an archangel in heaven. God solemnly warns us in 1 Corinthians 10 verse 20 about worshiping devils. The sacrifices of pagans are offered to demons, not to God, and I do not want you to be participants with demons. God refuses to permit his followers to have fellowship with the devil or with any of his demons or works. The warning is to all soldiers of Jesus Christ. There is a dreadful truth written by Paul to young Timothy, his son in the faith, found in 2 Timothy 2 verse 26, and that they may come to their senses and escape the snare of the devil, having been taken captive by him to do his will. There is a sense of strong caution here. Paul refers to the snare of the devil. As you know, a snare is a trap, a contraption you set for an animal. The animal thinks it is finding food to eat, and going into the trap or snare, it is caught. This is the manner in which the devil deceives the whole world, the heathen, and even Christians by a snare. He fools them into believing they will have pleasure, but they do not get pleasure. He fools them into believing if they follow him, everything will be all right, but it isn't all right. The scripture further says that he takes them captive to do his will. That is a dreadful statement, that the devil willfully and deliberately sets snares to capture human beings, who is able to set mankind free from the devil's power. How it is possible for an entire nation to fall under the devil's domination and give itself over to the worship of devils, becoming a devil-infested country. After that, I will show you how Satan can take a city, how a city becomes a habitation of devils. I will give you illustrations of ancient cities, as well as modern ones, that have given themselves over to satanic worship. The Bible gives us a clear portrait of who Satan is and how he affects our lives. Put simply, the Bible defines Satan as an angelic being who fell from his position in heaven due to sin, and is now completely opposed to God, doing all in his power to thwart God's purposes. Satan used to be a holy angel. In Isaiah 14 verse 12, he was possibly referred to as Lucifer before he fell. According to Ezekiel 28 verses 12 through 14, Satan was created as a cherub, which seems to be the highest rank among angels. But he got arrogant because of his beauty and status, and he wanted to be higher than God himself. His pride caused him to rebel. 1 Timothy 3 verse 6. Not a novice, lest being puffed up with pride he fall into the same condemnation as the devil. Although everything created by God was initially good, Satan rebelled against the Lord, leading many other angels in rebellion. When we read Isaiah 14 verses 12 through 15, you'll see lots of "I will" statements showing his rebellion. Because of his sin, God kicked Satan out of his high position forever. Isaiah 14 verses 12 through 15. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning! How you are cut down to the ground, you who weakened the nations! For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mount of the congregation, on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit. Satan took over as the ruler of this world and became known as the prince of the power of the air.